It was handed down to me by my father, and it was handed down to him by his father. My grandfather, in 1913-14, was recruited by the Chinese Maritime Customs Service and worked in China, generally overseeing all the maritime activities on both the Yangtze River and other rivers. This is the medal that was pinned on my grandfather, which was the medal given to the employee who became Inspector General of Chinese Maritime Customs.
This ink painting by Baishi depicts shrimp, one of the subjects most closely associated with his mature style. Born in Hunan Province in 1864, Baishi became a central figure in modern Chinese painting by revitalizing traditional brushwork through personal expression and sensitivity to nature. In this work, the shrimp appear lively and weightless, achieved through translucent bodies rendered in light ink, contrasted with darker, more concentrated heads. The long, seemingly spontaneous whiskers guide the eye across the composition and suggest subtle movement in water. The drawing exemplifies the shi-ai, or freehand, approach, in which suggestion is favored over precise description. Each brushstroke is deliberate yet unforced, conveying rhythm, balance, and vitality with minimal means. Likely created in the late 1940s, when Baishi was well into his 80s, the work reflects the clarity and confidence of his late period, when simplicity, control, and expressive power reached their fullest harmony.
I would be very comfortable placing an auction estimate on this drawing at $30,000 to $40,000.
You're kidding. Seriously? Wow. Gee. God, I had no idea. Wow, that's amazing.
If you were to insure it, I would insure it for at least $70,000.
That's amazing. Wow, what a gift to be given.
This is a drawing sent to my mother-in-law by Tom Wesselmann. This is his original drawing for his future still life, number 61. My mother-in-law had a lot of artist friends, which were at Pratt and Cooper Union, where he was also associated, and they formed a friendship.
This drawing is an original preparatory study by Tom Wesselmann for Still Life number 61, created in 1975 and executed in pencil and colored pencil on paper. It is signed, dated, and inscribed by the artist, confirming its authenticity and clear origin within his working process. Born in 1931, Wesselmann was a key figure in post-war American art and is closely associated with the pop art movement, even though he personally rejected the label. His work is characterized by the transformation of everyday objects into bold, monumental images that celebrate modern life through clarity of form, strong color, and deliberate scale. While Wesselmann is widely known for provocative, figurative compositions, his still lifes occupy an important place in his oeuvre, revealing a disciplined and highly structured approach. This drawing documents the conceptual stage of a large-scale still life project and reflects the artist's ability to infuse ordinary domestic imagery with vitality, sensuality, and visual power.
Tom Wesselmann died in 2004.
Right.
With the letter, the inscription, I think at auction right now you're realistically looking at $25,000 to $35,000.
Wow. Okay. Thank you. It will stay in the family, but that's lovely to know.
If you were to insure it, I think you're looking at something like $75,000.
Oh. Okay. We will do.
We took a trip to Dublin in 1970, and I happened to go in this art gallery, and I saw those, and I just couldn't resist.
These works are early pen and ink drawings by Jack B. Yeats, widely regarded as the most important Irish artist of the 20th century. Born in London in 1871 to a distinguished artistic family, Yeats was the son of portrait painter John Butler Yeats and the younger brother of poet and playwright W.B. Yeats. Before gaining recognition as a painter, Jack B. Yeats established himself as an illustrator, producing graphic works that captured everyday Irish life with wit, movement, and emotional immediacy. The drawings date from Yeats's early period, prior to his transition to oil painting around 1906. Executed in pen and ink, they demonstrate his bold graphic style and strong narrative instinct. The scenes focus on popular fairs and public gatherings, filled with games, signage, and animated figures. Such imagery reflects Yeats's fascination with ordinary people and communal experiences, rendered through a distinctly personal and expressive lens. Although Yeats later became known for richly textured oil paintings of Irish landscapes, horses, circuses, and folklore, these early works are essential to understanding his artistic development. They reveal the foundations of his visual language and his lifelong commitment to portraying Irish identity.
Because of the economic downturn and the economic situation in Ireland, his works, like that of other Irish artists, have taken a little bit of a tumble, but he's still highly respected and sought after. So I would think if you were to go in a retail situation today, that you might pay about $20,000 each for the two on the end, and maybe as much as $25,000 for the one in the center.
Whew. Gosh, I'm amazed. I'm amazed. I really am. And happy.
I inherited this from my mother about 10 years ago. I know very little about the artist, Yoakum, and what I learned this morning by going online.
Okay.
She would have bought this in either New York or Washington, D.C., and probably around 1982.
Yoakum lived a largely undocumented life, including an early period traveling with the circus before settling on Chicago's South Side, where he produced his mature body of work. His drawings are immediately recognizable for their flowing, organic compositions, characterized by soft contours, layered color, and an abstracted vision of landscapes that feel both imaginative and meditative. Avoiding hard lines or rigid structure, Yoakum created rhythmic forms that anticipate aspects of abstract expressionism while remaining deeply personal. Most of his known works date from the mid to late 1960s, a period during which he is believed to have produced art almost daily until his death in 1972. The presence of an early gallery label from Washington, D.C. situates this drawing within the growing recognition of African-American artists in the late 20th century, and the work exemplifies Yoakum's distinctive visual language, rarity, and lasting significance within American outsider and modern art.
That combined with the label, which is collector gold. So because of all these factors, including the recent MoMA show, I'm very comfortable valuing this in a retail setting somewhere between $50,000 and $60,000.
Holy smokes. Huh. Well, I hope it doesn't get rained on.
I think your mother would be shocked.
Yeah, I think she would be. I think she'd be pleased, for sure.
It's a drawing that I bought when I finished college. I'm in Chicago. I had a little money left, saw them, and I bought for $280 the Paul Klee ink drawing.
This pen and ink drawing, titled Leichter Verfall, Slight Deterioration, dated 1927, is a characteristic work by Paul Klee, the Swiss artist active between 1879 and 1940. Executed on a small and intimate scale, the drawing reflects Klee's refined graphic language, marked by delicate lines, symbolic forms, and a quiet, contemplative rhythm. Signed by the artist and annotated on the mount with its title, date, and inventory number, the work aligns with Klee's disciplined practice of cataloging his output. Stylistically, it demonstrates the qualities for which Klee is best known: a childlike yet highly intellectual visual vocabulary, often described as hieroglyphic, and an ability to merge elements of expressionism, cubism, and surrealism into a personal and poetic system. The theme, implied by the title, is subtly echoed in the imagery and in the minor paper damage visible on the surface, which is consistent with age and could be professionally conserved. Supported by exhibition documentation and published references, the drawing stands as a strong and authentic example of Klee's mature period, illustrating his enduring influence on modern art and his unique ability to convey complex ideas through seemingly simple means.
Ultimately, it's worth emphasizing that there is a Paul Klee Foundation. The foundation really would need to see it so that we can be 100% certain that it is genuine. If offered at auction as is, we estimate the work to be valued between $25,000 to $40,000.
Wow. That's a pretty good price.
Now, if these tears were mended, we would raise the value. Probably around $50,000 is where you might think about insuring it.
Oh, wow. All right. Thank you.
I inherited from my deceased partner. That was about 20 years ago. And when he lived in New York, he was in the subway with one of his friends telling him about Keith Haring. And this was all relatively new, I guess, in the early 80s. He was telling him about it, and he said, you know what, I'm going to take that for posterity's sake, and whipped out his little pocket knife and cut it out. And it was already torn a little bit up there.
This chalk drawing on black paper, originally created for a New York City subway station, is an authentic example of Keith Haring's early public work from the first half of the 1980s. Executed on unused advertising panels temporarily placed between subway posters, the piece reflects Haring's innovative decision to treat the urban transit system as both canvas and stage. Born in Pennsylvania in 1958, Haring moved to New York in 1978 and quickly became immersed in the city's graffiti and street culture, developing a bold visual language of simplified figures, rhythmic lines, and symbolic imagery intended to be instantly legible to a wide audience. The drawing's spontaneous execution, visible tearing along the edges, and use of chalk emphasize its origins as a fleeting, performative act rather than a studio-bound artwork. Artistically, the work embodies Haring's belief that art should be accessible, joyful, and integrated into everyday life, inviting passers-by to engage directly with the creative process. Created during the period when Haring was rapidly gaining recognition yet still working prolifically in public spaces, the drawing stands as a powerful document of a pivotal moment in the emergence of contemporary street art and of an artist whose social engagement and humanist ideals continued until his premature death in 1990.
At auction, I would estimate it between $30,000 and $50,000.
You're kidding.
No.
Oh my God. Oh my.
Yes. They're very rare now.
Wow.
They're important. And for insurance, probably around $50,000.
Oh my God.
I brought a Wayne Thiebaud drawing, which was a wedding present to me and my husband. And it's from Wayne and his family. My ex-father-in-law was very good friends with Wayne.
Born in 1,920 inches, Arizona, and raised in California, Wayne Thiebaud began his artistic career as an apprentice before working as an illustrator and cartoonist at Walt Disney Studios. He later became an influential educator, teaching at Sacramento City College and the University of California, Davis, while simultaneously developing his reputation through exhibitions that established him as a significant figure in post-war American art. Although often associated with the pop art movement, Thiebaud's work differs from that of many New York-based pop artists. His art focuses on everyday objects, most famously pastries, candies, and other familiar items, which he rendered larger than life through careful composition, refined draftsmanship, and subtle use of color. The drawing discussed here, executed in pen and ink with pencil inscriptions and dated 1990, comes from what is widely regarded as the peak period of his career. The composition incorporates multiple small images that reference his iconic visual vocabulary alongside a delicately drawn female figure. Signed and dated by the artist, the work reflects both personal dedication and the mature confidence of Thiebaud's late 20th century style, contributing significantly to its artistic and monetary value.
And it dates from 1990, which is really at the high point of his career.
Oh.
By this time, he's a very, very well-known artist. All in all, it looks to me to be in great shape. There's one little area right here where the ink seems to have smudged. If I had to put a replacement value on this, I would say you're looking at about $30,000.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I didn't think I better get it insured.
My father was an architect, and he was asked to remodel or re-engineer a house that was designed by Lloyd Wright. My father wasn't involved with the initial structure or design. I think it was built in 1951. A few years later, there seemed to be some problem with the house. As you can see in the photographs, I think it almost was falling down. And so it had to be either remodeled or rebuilt. I'm not sure.
And this was here in Arizona?
This was here in Arizona, in the Biltmore area. And when they completed the house, Mr. Wright gave my father this drawing of the house as a gift.
This work is an original architectural drawing by Lloyd Wright, created in connection with the Benjamin Edelman House in Arizona, a residence designed around 1951 during the later phase of Wright's career. Lloyd Wright, born in 1867, is widely regarded as one of the most influential architects of the 20th century, known for his visionary approach to integrating structure, environment, and modern living. The drawing is a finished composition rather than a preliminary sketch, carefully executed and signed with Wright's distinctive cartouche in the lower right corner, confirming its authenticity and artistic intention. When viewed alongside period photographs documenting serious structural problems such as cracks, shifting walls, and partial separation of the building, the drawing gains additional historical significance. It reveals not only Wright's aesthetic ambition but also the technical challenges that sometimes accompanied his experimental designs.
It's absolutely extraordinary. It's beautiful, and at retail, it would bring $25,000 to $30,000.
Wow. Well, I know my dad would be very pleased.
This colored crayon drawing by Pablo Picasso entered the family through an extraordinary personal story that dates back to 1958. Before the current owner met his wife, she had an on-and-off relationship with a man who later tried to win her back through an unconventional romantic gesture. Believing that nothing would impress her more than a Picasso autograph, he wrote a humorous and heartfelt letter to Art Buchwald, the celebrated columnist for the International Herald Tribune, pleading for help. At the time, the Paris bureau was experiencing a slow news period, and Buchwald turned the letter into a published column, openly wondering whether Picasso might respond. The article was soon read aloud to Picasso by his close friend, photographer David Douglas Duncan, while Picasso was painting in Cannes, France. Amused by the story, Picasso reportedly set down his brushes, took a sheet of paper and colored pencils, and created a small drawing.
And he signed it Poor Miss Gloria Siegel. That was my wife's maiden name. He signed it Picasso. And then a telegram came to Harvey Brodsky back in Philadelphia. The newspapers, all the newspapers were talking about this. It was the first time that Picasso had ever done anything like this. The irony of it, of course, is that he's out of the picture now, right? I married her, and therefore I married into a family with a Picasso.
It's a wonderful color crayon drawing by Picasso. You see it is dated in the lower right, 1958, and it was done in Cannes, France. The dedication to your future wife.
The drawing reflects Picasso's late period, characterized by fluid, confident lines, simplified forms, and a playful yet assured use of color. Its composition is direct and economical, prioritizing gesture and expression over descriptive detail. The visible fold marks indicate that it was conceived as an intimate, portable work, rather than a formal studio piece, consistent with Picasso's habit of creating spontaneous drawings within everyday social contexts. Artistically, the work demonstrates Picasso's extraordinary ability to convey personality and emotion with minimal visual means. Despite its modest scale, the drawing carries strong authenticity through its signature, date, and well-documented circumstances.
At auction, today, I would say a drawing like this has a value of about $12,000 to $18,000. With all that background documentation and the story that you have for it, with all the characters who are involved in this, Art Buchwald and Douglas Duncan, I would put its auction value at $15,000 to $20,000.
Wow. It's good to know. I can't wait to tell my wife.
Well, it's not. And even that value doesn't mean so much in that you got the lady.
That's right. That's the most important thing.
Late 1800s sometime. The story is that my great-great-uncle, Phil Weinard, was in Helena, Montana, and he got a job up in Alberta, Canada. He met two guys in the bar, and they asked him if they could come along with him. And these two guys in the bar were Charlie Russell and a guy named Stilwell.
The drawing is believed to have entered the family in the late 1880s, when a relative traveling through Montana and into Alberta, Canada, encountered Charles Marion Russell, then a young and little-known artist. During the summer of 1888, Russell remained in Alberta, spending time among the Blackfeet people and producing drawings with basic materials he had been given. When he later left the area, several drawings were left behind and preserved within the family, placing this work in a year recognized as pivotal in Russell's artistic development. Charles Marion Russell, born in 1864, is regarded as one of the most important American Western artists of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. His first-hand experience as a cowboy and his close contact with Native American tribes shaped his respectful and documentary approach to Western subjects. The graphite drawing, executed on both sides of the paper, reflects this early period. One side depicts Russell working while observed by members of the Blackfeet tribe, while the reverse shows a Native American chief. The confident line work and direct observation are consistent with Russell's early style, making the piece a historically meaningful example from the formative stage of his career.
If we find out that it's after Russell, it would be a drawing with decorative value, which would probably be a couple $100s. But the story, the references, I think it's a very good departure for research to have the piece authenticated. I think when it is authenticated, it could have an insurance value of $20,000. Russell is an extraordinarily important and beloved American artist.
I brought you a couple sketches from Michael Jackson. I had the opportunity of being in school with him in 10th grade. And that was a school in Encino where there's about 90 students. So I had an art class with him. And I would watch him draw these drawings, and then he'd ball it up and throw it away. I asked him one day, I love that Charlie Chaplin drawing, can I have that? And he said, sure, go ahead and take it home and enjoy it. But he didn't sign it. And so I got home and my dad said, that should probably be signed. And he sent me back to school and I had him sign it, and he just picked up a crayon and signed Michael Jackson.
These two sketches were drawn by Michael Jackson during his high school years in the early 1970s, when he was already famous as a member of the Jackson 5 but still attending school. At that time, Jackson often drew casually in art class, creating images for his own enjoyment rather than with any intention of preservation. One sketch depicts Charlie Chaplin, a figure Jackson deeply admired and later openly identified with throughout his career, even recording and performing Chaplin-related works decades later. The other sketch is a portrait of a woman believed to resemble a tutor who traveled with the Jackson family during tours, reflecting his habit of drawing people from his immediate surroundings. Both drawings are signed Michael Jackson, in a simple, informal manner, consistent with spontaneous school-era work. Their significance lies less in technical refinement and more in their direct connection to Jackson's formative years, revealing an early fascination with iconic figures, character, and human expression that would later define his artistic persona across multiple disciplines.
A couple years back, there was a painting by Michael Jackson, he did at the age of 9, of Charlie Chaplin, and that did all right. But these are larger, they're very clear. The signature on both of them is very nice. I spoke with a couple of my colleagues. It's tough, there aren't a lot of comparables out there, but we feel that these would perform very strongly at auction and would give an estimate of between $8,000 and $10,000 each.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. Thank you.
Well, I have two pieces of art done by John Biggers. He's my Uncle John, as I know him. He and my father were classmates in college at Hampton Institute. This piece was in our house for as long as I've been alive. And the story goes, my Uncle John was throwing it out of his garage. And my dad happened to be there and said, well, no, don't throw it away, I'll take it. I tried to get these restored, and the restorer here in town told me that she couldn't touch them until I got insurance on it and an appraisal.
These two charcoal drawings are works by John Biggers, one of the most influential African-American artists of the 20th century and a central figure in American modernism. Educated at Hampton Institute, Biggers developed a visual language deeply informed by African history, philosophy, and symbolism. His art consistently explored themes of cultural continuity, spiritual strength, and the collective experience of the African diaspora, positioning the human figure as a vessel of memory and identity rather than as a purely individual subject. Executed in charcoal with restrained white chalk accents, the drawings present a single female figure shown from two complementary perspectives, one frontal and one from the back. This deliberate pairing is especially meaningful as it reflects a structured study of form rather than an isolated sketch. Biggers often employed simplified yet monumental line work, giving the figure a sculptural presence and a sense of timelessness. The emphasis on volume, posture, and balance aligns closely with African sculptural traditions, which strongly influenced his work. Taken together, these drawings function as a cohesive meditation on femininity, strength, and cultural heritage, illustrating Biggers's ability to merge modernist draftsmanship with profound symbolic depth.
The interesting thing about these two is that they are really a pair. I mean, you have the front view and then the back of the same figure, and that's very rare to find. At auction, I would value them as a pair $12,000 to $18,000.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Thanks for bringing them in today.
Oh, my pleasure.
My grandfather went on an expedition for the American Museum of Natural History in 1913, and Fuertes was the artist on that expedition, and my grandfather was there. My grandfather wrote journals, and Fuertes put drawings in the journals and gave my grandfather these paintings. The writing is hard to read because they were his personal journals.
Right.
But they're very interesting. They talk about all kinds of people he met, bars they went in.
What wonderful documents.
This group of works originates from a scientific expedition undertaken in 1913 for the American Museum of Natural History, during which the artist Luis Agassiz Fuertes accompanied the team as the official illustrator. Fuertes was already renowned at the time as one of the foremost American naturalist artists, deeply influenced by the legacy of John James Audubon, and celebrated for his ability to capture animals with extraordinary vitality and accuracy. Trained initially for a more conventional career, Fuertes ultimately devoted his life to painting and drawing wildlife, illustrating books, popular trading cards, and documenting expeditions across the Americas. The objects discussed include watercolor and graphite drawings on paper, along with intimate sketchbooks that record the visual and written impressions of the journey. A watercolor parrot, signed and dated during the Columbia expedition, demonstrates Fuertes's mastery of movement, color, and anatomical observation, bringing the bird vividly to life. Other works, such as a hunting scene and studies of grouped birds, reveal his sensitivity to composition and natural behavior, while the rare inclusion of human figures adds documentary depth. These sketchbooks, created alongside the expedition journals, represent an exceptional example of early 20th century expeditionary art, combining scientific observation, personal experience, and artistic excellence.
In terms of the value of the pieces, Fuertes is a highly, highly collected naturalist artist. And he's done many, many birds. I would estimate the parrot at between $5,000 and $7,000.
Wow.
The hunt scene at $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
And the 3 sketchbooks, which also include other drawings, at $3,000 to $5,000.
Well, great.
He was my grandfather's godfather, and he gave this book to my grandfather, and he had it his whole life and then gave it to my uncle.
And what's between the covers? Can we open up and we'll see what's in there?
Sure.
This object is an old book that contains an exceptionally early drawing by James Abbott McNeill Whistler, one of the most important figures in American art. The book dates from Whistler's time as a young man in the early 1850s, when he was a student at the United States Military Academy at West Point. Although his family hoped he would pursue a respectable profession, Whistler was already inclined toward art, often sketching casually for friends rather than focusing on military studies. Inside the book is a small but significant ink drawing, simply signed J. Whistler, predating the famous butterfly monogram he later adopted. Dated 1851, the sketch depicts a romantic scene, often referred to as the elopement, showing 2 young lovers quietly slipping away together. The drawing reflects Whistler's early narrative style and sense of movement, long before he became associated with the aesthetic movement or produced iconic works such as Whistler's Mother. While the book contains other drawings and inscriptions, they are primarily of historical interest. It is this early, signed Whistler sketch that gives the object its artistic and scholarly importance, offering a rare glimpse into the formative years of a major artist.
Well, at auction, because it's an early piece, it's atypical.
Sure.
I would feel pretty comfortable estimating it at $10,000 to $15,000.
Wow, that's fantastic.
Although there are other drawings in here, and some of them are interesting or quite quirky, they are more of interest than of value.
Right.
So they don't add to the inherent value of the book.
Thank you.
Lovely. I think that's the earliest work I've ever seen by Whistler.
I grew up in Minneapolis, where Schulz lived, and when he was starting the comic strip, he would go to various organizations and talk,
And as he drew, he would rip them off and toss them in the corner. And so those of us who were fans would go and get them after he finished speaking.
The story begins with a letter sent from Charles M. Schulz, written on his original stationery and personally signed. Alongside the signature, Schulz added a small, playful doodle of Snoopy, accompanied by one of the character's familiar remarks, a spontaneous touch that transforms the letter from simple correspondence into a personal keepsake. The letter was written in response to a fan who, after the television debut of A Charlie Brown Christmas, had sent Schulz a handmade Snoopy ornament with the hope that it might hang on his Christmas tree. Schulz's reply is brief yet warm, reflecting both his generosity of spirit and his close connection with his audience. Accompanying the letter is a single original Peanuts drawing created during Schulz's early professional period. The artwork displays confident, economical line work, clear character definition, and a bold signature, all hallmarks of Schulz's developing style. It reflects a time when he was actively promoting comic art and refining the visual language that would later define Peanuts as one of the most influential comic strips of the 20th century. The spontaneous quality of the drawing reveals his direct and unpretentious working method.
It's wonderful that it's on his original stationery, signed by him with a little doodle of Snoopy saying, "It looked just like me." Letters like this, personalized, will bring about $1,200 to $1,500.
Really?
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness. And it's been in a drawer
Well,
for years.
take it out and frame it.
I'm going to.
Now, let's talk about this drawing. In 1946, he was in the Art Instruction, Inc. It was his first job after he got out of the war, and he had a hard time breaking into this area. So when you say he went to schools and drew and spoke, he really did try to promote comic art and illustration to a new generation of younger kids, and people like you were so impressed by it.
Right, we loved it.
Well, it's a lovely big example, a really bold, incredible signature, and at auction, this piece would be worth $7,000 to $9,000.
Oh my God. Wow. That's amazing. Truly amazing. And I see people going, wow, but truly, I never thought it could be that much.
It belongs to my husband's grandfather.
So your husband's great-great-grandfather.
I didn't know how many greats, but some greats.
This late 19th century folk art drawing captures a vivid snapshot of agricultural life in the American Midwest. The work depicts a group of American merino sheep and is signed Sketched from Life by N.W. Windland of Centerville, Ohio. Windland was one of several itinerant artists who traveled through rural communities, offering farmers detailed renderings of their farms and livestock as lasting records of prosperity. The composition reflects the Midwest's role as the agricultural heartland of the United States during this period. The sheep are rendered with notable fullness and clarity, emphasizing health, strength, and economic value. Each animal is individually numbered, a detail that corresponds to breeding and registration records commonly maintained by farmers. This feature highlights the drawing's documentary purpose alongside its artistic qualities. The drawing shows visible signs of age, including burn marks caused by prolonged contact with a wooden backing board. These signs of wear reinforce the work's authenticity and historical depth. Executed in charcoal and pen, the piece stands as a strong example of American agricultural folk art, illustrating both the visual culture and farming practices of the late 19th century Midwest.
These vertical and round places are from where a wooden board has burned through the paper on the back. Any idea what it's worth?
No.
I would say a good auction estimate for this charcoal and pen drawing is somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000. Surprise you?
Actually, yes. I like it, and I like it better now.
Of course, well.
I was fortunate to buy this at a yard sale in Homer, Alaska in the early 1990s. I bought 6 or 8 pieces that were drawings by other artists, and I don't even recall, but I'm sure it was like less than $30. The person I bought it from said that they acquired it off the streets of Nome in the early 1970s. I once took it to the Anchorage, Alaska Museum and met with the curator there in the mid-1990s, but I do not exactly recall what he thought it was valued at.
This work is a drawing by James Kividoruk Moses, also known as Arctic Moses, a prominent Alaskan native artist of the 20th century. Born in 1,903 inches Cape Espenberg in northern Alaska, Moses was an Inupiat artist whose work closely reflects the Arctic life he personally experienced, including reindeer herding, hunting, and encounters between indigenous communities and incoming outsiders. After surviving a serious plane crash in 1953, he turned more fully to drawing and painting as both a livelihood and a way to document his world. This piece is dated stylistically to the 1960s and is executed in ink and watercolor on paper. The composition likely depicts the introduction of reindeer to western Alaska, a subject Moses frequently explored because of its cultural significance and complexity. While the drawing is relatively simple, it shows careful craftsmanship, with finely rendered reindeer fur and expressive clouds that add movement and atmosphere. Though modest in scale and condition, the work stands as a quiet but meaningful example of Moses's role as a visual storyteller of Alaska native life.
The drawing itself is rather simplistic. I've seen many more that are much more complex. It is unframed. I'm not sure of the backing. I believe it's acid paper because of the conservation efforts it may need. I would place a value on this between $2,500 and $2,800.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
An acquaintance called me and he told me that he was at a home in historic Knoxville, and it was the former home of the late Joseph Delaney, who was an African-American artist from Knoxville, and that there were some pieces in the attic that they wanted to sell. We had to make a quick decision, and I purchased 10 sketches that looked like they were from a sketchbook, but they were all individuals like this.
How much did you pay for them?
I believe it was $20 a piece.
The objects discussed are a group of original sketches by Joseph Delaney, a 20th century African-American artist from Knoxville, Tennessee. Delaney, along with his brother Buford, was part of a generation of Southern black artists who sought formal training in New York, where Joseph remained and developed his career as a draftsman. Later in life, at the recommendation of writer Alex Haley, he returned to Knoxville to serve as artist-in-residence at the University of Tennessee, marking an important homecoming in his artistic journey. These drawings reflect Delaney's strength as a prolific and highly skilled draftsman. His work is known for its elegant line quality, calligraphic confidence, and strong sense of form. One sketch, executed in colored chalk and charcoal, shows his technique of applying charcoal with the side rather than the tip, producing soft shading and sweeping lines that create a convincing sense of volume. Another drawing, made with brush and ink, depicts a nude figure rendered with bold, fluid strokes that recall Japanese calligraphy, capturing the pose with immediacy and sensitivity.
You really feel that he's capturing the model at that pose. The market for these drawings is approximately $1,000 each. They sell in New York at auctions for about $1,000 to $1,500.
Wonderful.
So that was a really good buy considering you paid only $20 each.
When I was a student in Boston 50 years ago, I was walking down Newbury Street, and there was a crowd outside this bookstore. Gahan Wilson was out there with an easel and drawing paper and taking suggestions from people about what to draw.
Wow. So you threw out a suggestion?
I know he specialized in a lot of monsters. Everybody knows Frankenstein and Dracula, but I said the gill man, the creature from the Black Lagoon.
This work is an original drawing by Gahan Wilson, created spontaneously on Newbury Street in Boston in the early 1970s, when the artist was already gaining recognition for his distinctive voice in American illustration. Wilson was an illustrator, author, cartoonist, and humorist, best known for his darkly comic style rooted in fantasy, science fiction, and horror. His work appeared regularly in major publications such as The New Yorker, National Lampoon, and Playboy, and he was later celebrated as the Master of the Macabre and the Wizard of Weird. The drawing depicts the creature from the Black Lagoon, a classic monster from mid-20th century cinema, reimagined in an unexpectedly gentle and humorous scenario. Rather than presenting the creature as frightening, Wilson humanizes it through a whimsical domestic moment, revealing his trademark ability to subvert horror with empathy and dark humor. Executed quickly from audience suggestions, the piece demonstrates his exceptional imagination, technical confidence, and improvisational skill. The bold signature further confirms its authenticity and contributes to its desirability. As an early example of Wilson's original cartoon art, the drawing reflects both his cultural impact and the enduring appeal of his playful yet unsettling vision.
And they're all going to be maybe 10 by 10 or 10 by 15, something like that. What year do you think that would have been?
72 or 73.
72 or 73. So fairly early. I would say that at auction, we're talking about $1,500 to $2,500.
That's a surprise. The creature looks so cute and adorable there.
Exactly. Not
Yeah.
such a bad monster once you get to know him.
That's right.